between a tax and a user fee is the incidence of who pays for it. In other words, a tax is applicable across the city because everybody pays it. And we use the revenue to pay for a service that presumably everybody uses, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. For example, education. We have a property tax that helps finance education, but not everybody uses it. So, you know, one can talk about the rhetoric. Is it a fee? Is it a tax? At the end of the day, a fee generates revenue, a tax generates revenue. We have our municipal land transfer tax. Is it a fee or is it a tax? It doesn't hit everybody. Not all property owners pay a municipal land transfer tax. The only property owners that pay a municipal land transfer tax, on top of the property tax, are people who buy a new home, move up, whatever. They pay an additional, now you can call it a fee. If it were a tax, a bona fide tax, it should be included in the property tax base, but it's not. So you can get into all sorts of semantics about, is it this or is it that? At the end of the day, somebody's paying. Now, the question of this program that's being put in place is, should it be whatever the department needs to do a better job? Should it be financed entirely by everybody across the city, i.e. should it come from the property tax base? Or should it just be financed by the 350,000 rental units? Or should it be financed by however many rental units are really the culprits out there, or the landlords? I don't know how many there are. It might be 50, might be 100. I certainly have my share. But I would love to finance on the backs of those guys and raise all the funds you want to raise from them. Now, at the end of the day, what does that really accomplish if we go after those landlords and those landlords only? So we rate the building bad news, guys. It's a horrible building. And what happens is, it's not like a restaurant. You label a restaurant bad, and anybody that uses a restaurant can go from that restaurant, go to somewhere else. But somebody that needs a roof over their heads, you label their building a bad building, they don't have the option of going to another building. So what do you really accomplish in exploring that kind of thing? Not a whole lot. Not a whole lot. Now, the more we impose a cost on those landlords that are running a bad show, okay? Doesn't matter, increase the cost. They won't pay, nor will they fix whatever you tell them to fix, because they know that you don't have any option of housing those people in those buildings. That's what the problem is. The problem is there is not housing to accommodate the people that need to be accommodated. So one can say, well, you know what, this will do a better job. This is the solution. The reality is it's not the solution. It's not going to go after those people that are the bad landlords. We have to find an alternative solution. And the real solution is to be able to find more housing, or actually incentivize to have somebody build more rental housing. But we all know that hasn't been done for the last, how many years? 30, 40 years. We all know that hasn't been done. So you know what, I have mixed feelings. I think it's, to the extent that it's a small fee that's being passed along, I think we can, I can go along with it, but at the end of the day, I don't know what the actual effectiveness is going to be. Anyway, I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Councillor Di Giorgio. Next speaker, Councillor De Vermeeke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to be removing recommendation number 1 of the staff report.
Which one is, can we just display that? Oh, can the staff report?
Yes, recommendation number 1 of the staff report. And 2 motions, staff can put them up. 1 motion, and I've worked on this with staff.
Are you option B?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, sorry, Mr. Chair, could you start my time again, because the motion just got put up? And not that I want to name names, but somebody was poking me in the shoulder.
Okay.
So, okay, good to go?
Good to go.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to move recommendation number 1 of the staff report, and then these 2 recommendations on the screen. One, that the City Council directed the program be funded as follows, and it goes down to 45% recovery, 15% recovery through enforcement action, 40% from the tax base. And that number 2, Council direct the Executive Director to report to the Budget Committee during the 2017 operating budget process on the program budget and the 12 additional full-time equivalent staff required to implement the program. So, Mr. Chair, what I'm going to do is support this report. I think I mentioned earlier, I think this has been one of the best written reports that I've seen on my 6 years on this committee. And while it doesn't solve every problem in every building in every ward of the city, I think it does go a long way to going after the bad apples while really not interacting with the good apples that much. Like Councillor DiGiorgio said, we want to go after the people who are engaging in bad behavior. People who don't respect the tenants, people who don't take care of their buildings, people who don't fix the elevator. Those are the people that we want to target. And while I actually supported option B, which is an $11 registration fee, I'm adopting this version, which is option D, with some more full-time equivalent staff added to it and with all those numbers attached to it. Because I think we have to go after those bad apples. Every single one of us can say, yeah, I've got 3 buildings in my ward, I've got 5 buildings in my ward that are difficult. And we've got 3,400 apartment buildings in this city and currently a full-time equivalent of 24 staff to look after 3,400 buildings. So I think the staff report recommended an additional 6 full-time equivalent staff. I'm submitting to this committee and to council that it actually should be 12 additional full-time equivalent staff. I really think we need to go and help people who need help. And if you're a good landlord, we're going to come to your building once every 3 years. We're going to come to your building, look at your building and say, it's a beautiful building, the hallways are beautiful, the elevators are working, the garbage room doesn't stink, we don't see any nasty bugs, we'll see you in another 3 years from now. And if you're one of those Dawes Road buildings that has got a very, very poor record, we are going to come to your building month after month to make sure that you allow people to live in a decent standard of living. So I think this, when I look at the entire package, I think it's a good package. Again, like Councillor DiGiorgio, one of my major complaints usually is about elevators that don't work. Unfortunately, we don't control that legislation. That's provincial legislation. I will call it a small step, but an important step forward in this package, is that our staff will now go as part of the registration system, and they will look in the logbook of the local landlord or the local apartment building. And that way, we can find out pretty quickly. You open the logbook and you say, gee, you aren't meeting the provincial guidelines because we know what they are, and we're actually going to put a call into our provincial counterparts, and we're going to have them come out and inspect your elevator because your elevators aren't up to provincial code. We can't enforce the provincial code, but at least we can do something. So I look at all of this. This is a good step forward. It is not landlord licensing. And myself, Councillor Moscow, when we used to be together on this committee and others, we advocated for the beginning of the MRAP program. We wanted landlord licensing. We didn't get it back then 8 years ago. We're not getting landlord licensing today, but what we are getting is a set of recommendations that will improve the quality of life of people who live in buildings. Hopefully we'll get more inspectors. I do think we have to increase the penalties, and I think Councillor Davis's motion will address that. That's in the staff report that they were going to do anyway, but I'm hoping that we can do it. I think we need to go to the rating system. We'll get a report back on that. The no extensions we'll have to see, because I do think sometimes when you order a part, so I'm at 2 minutes? Oh, okay, great. So with those recommendations, Mr. Chair, I do think this is a very a watershed moment for us in terms of protecting tenants, and I'm very glad to support the report with those amendments.
Question from the mover, Councilor Mamolidi.
Straight, you're adding a few more staff people with your motion?
Yes, that's right. I'm adding an additional 6 staff.
An additional 6, so it's 12 now?
Yes, that's in the motion, 12.
So you're now looking to spend $250 million or so over a 25-year period?
I'm not that sure about those numbers, but what I am willing to do is make sure that we have 36 staff in a city of 2.5 million people taking care of 3,400 apartment buildings. And that works out to about one staff person.
The initial,
If I can finish my response, that works out to about one staff person for every 100 buildings.
okay.
So having one staff person taking care of roughly 100 buildings, I don't think is overstaffed.
Where's the money going to come from?
I think sometimes they actually have to go on vacation.
Where's the money going to come from?
Well, the money is fully funded in this report.
Is it where?
If the motion on the screen, 45% is recovered by the registration fee, 15% is recovered, I'll call it by perhaps the bad apples or the revenues from enforcement action, and 40%, which is not my
Taxes.
preference,
Taxes.
comes from taxes. I'd like
so-
to take it down to 20%,
So-
but
So,
conversations with
is that,
staff, I've been
is that the
convinced to go with
existing
their-
money that we're getting in, or are we recommending to the Budget Committee to increase taxes for this?
No, if this motion is adopted, we will take less money from the tax base and generate more money through the registration fee and enforcement activities. We're going to cost recovery. It's not 100% cost recovery, it's 60% cost recovery. I'd like 80% cost recovery.
So you think there's enough money in taxes to pay for these extra existing taxes, the ones without the increase coming up and being recommended tomorrow, most likely, to budget? You think that there is $1 million there for staffing?
Yes, tolls or no tolls tomorrow.
We have $1 million in our budget right now to hire 12 people at $120,000 a year.
No, my motion says that these people the staff will be hired, the revenue to hire those people will come from revenues from enforcement action, from
And
those bad
taxes.
apples.
And
No,
taxes.
no taxes, zero taxes.
It says 5.181.6.
That's the cost of the yes.
40% recovered from the tax base.
Yes, well, right now, the current number, if I look in the staff report, we're actually collecting today, if my staff can tell me if I'm wrong, we're generating zero from any revenues. So we're actually generating $2.7 million in revenue. We're spending, I believe, if my memory is correct, here it is. We're
Are you guys like in this Technicolor dream? Is that where you are?
No,
You're like in
Councillor
this
Manley, we're currently-
Wizard of Oz dream?
We are currently collecting from taxpayers $3.1 million a year to pay for all these inspectors. If we adopt
12 new staff people for the City of Toronto.
Pardon me?
That's 12
Thank
new
you.
staff people. Do you realize that we've already hired, over the last 2 years, 350 staff people more than we had before the last election?
I've seen the charts, yeah.
All right, so now we're adding another 12 people. And we've added another
Fully
three
paid for,
counselors to
yeah.
council.
Yes,
Can-
Councillor.
Councillor,
Fully paid for through user fees,
please.
not by the taxpayer. Yes.
Councillor-
So I'm
Councilman-
very comfortable recommending we have more inspectors to protect more people at no cost.
No, that's not what your motion says, no cost. Will you add no
The
cost
question,
to that?
Councilman Moliri,
Will
the
you
council,
add-
the,
would you be willing to add no cost to that in the way of language? No cost to any more taxes?
Well, that's what it is.
That's not what it says.
okay, you have answered the
40%
question, you
recovered from
have
tax base.
clarified.
We're
The purpose of
reducing-
this
Tomorrow, we're
questioning-
about to increase property
you.
taxes.
Any other questions? Okay. Are you speaking? I think that's probably, I think everybody else has spoken. I have a motion that I'd like to move. Can we display that one, please? So this recommendation, what it does, even before I get to that, is I would like to thank city staff for the report. I think that what's before us, what's before this committee, it's been long overdue. We've been waiting, and we have almost half of the population in City of Toronto that are tenants, and they do deserve and to have a system that's accountable and much better than what it is. Also, I want to thank the deputants and for making your presentations, and as well as Acorn for your good work throughout the years. I would like to move recommendation number 2D as recommended by city staff. And I will not support, and I urge members of the committee not to support the recommendation by my dear colleague, Councilor Di Bermejo. That's a recommendation, that's a poison pill right now. It's done on a fly. We haven't had any consultations with the stakeholders. It doesn't make sense, and I'm saying it very respectfully. City staff have gone the extra mile to consult, even though that some members of council, some members of the committee don't feel comfortable with what's been recommended, but I believe that they have gone the extra mile to make sure that through the consultation process, we do the right thing, and that's the right thing to do. So recommendation 2D is the one that we should be going for, as opposed to a recommendation that's been done on the fly. That recommendation, that also adds, the second part of that recommendation adds another 6 members to the force, and I think that's something that at this point is a little bit too premature. One of the things that I wanted to say is that I'm very glad that we are going with this regulatory framework by law, and hopefully that's going to be implemented as opposed to the licensing by law that was proposed, because that was going to be a total mess. The regulatory by law, this new framework, will provide all the necessary tools that city staff need to accomplish that, the city's mandate. What's the city's mandate? Is to protect consumers, consumer protection, safety, and the well-being of tenants overall throughout the city of Toronto. And that's exactly what the public expects from all of us to make the right decisions. Within this regulatory framework, I think that a number of things are going to be enhanced, and that's what I'm talking about, the tools that city staff need to move forward. In terms of the recovery cost, I want to remind members of council that on July the 7th of 2016 at City Council, I was the member of council who asked a City Council to bring a report back with regards to the cost recovery and under the model of MRAP, because I thought that that's the best way of doing it, and that's why we had this report here today. And I think that embraces exactly what City Council asked city staff to do it. They have done it through the consultation process, and that's one of the reasons why I believe that recommendation 2D from city staff is the way to go. Otherwise, we'll be undermining totally what the direction of City Council. One of the, in the scope overall of the report, in terms of where do we go from here, is, with regards to that recommendation, is that all building landlords will have to pay the registration fee of $8 per unit. It's not a huge amount, it's a modest amount, but it's a good start in terms of moving forward. And one of the problems that I have in terms of justifying some of the recommendations that are before us is by creating something on the fly, is that the good landlords out there, the excellent landlords, that they never had a notice of compliance, they're going to be forced to pay a not compliant high risk for those who are breaking the law. And that's not fair, and that's not, hasn't been part of the consultation process. On the other hand, when we think about tenants, for God's sakes, think about our tenants, the Toronto Community Housing. And we are the landlords, the City of Toronto is the landlords. What are we doing for them? What are we doing for them when most of our tenants are living in deplorable conditions? And that's when we are using these layers of information as opposed to notice of violations or orders of compliance to make sure that those tenants they don't live in deplorable conditions. So I think that when it comes to regulations, let's be fair with everyone, irrespectively we're dealing with tenants within the private sector or the public sector. All of them, they deserve to live in dignity, and we have to, it's our responsibility to make sure that we do the right thing. So I think that creating that level of disparity between those two bodies, it doesn't go well with me, at least as a city councilor. I have 2 apartment buildings with Toronto Community Housing, and the complaint that they have every day is that, literally speaking, that they cannot get things done, and it's not the fault of our city staff from municipal licensing. They are trying, but we all know that we don't have the funds, number one, and number two is the level of flexibility with them. So I think that if we are serious about it, let's just use one single standard. Thank you.
I have a question for you regarding the motion that's on the screen. Are you aware that your motion would in fact be out of order, given that it directs staff, directly directs enforcement activities, and we're not allowed to do that? And with your indulgence, can we just get clarification from the clerk or from legal staff on whether or not this would be in order? Because I believe it's not. Could we just get the clerk to speak to it?
And I'm going to, this is my motion.
Yeah.
And, so what we have here is, in my opinion, and I say it very respectfully, double standard, is within the private sector. If you have a homeowner, for example,
Yeah.
we have either notice of violations or order of compliance. If you want to advance, you have the remedy aspect, or you take them to court. There is no such a thing about that level of flexibility where you have a letter of information. So the same law that applies to all the homeowners across the city of Toronto should apply also to the other ones. Now, we also have, with the good landlords out there with apartment buildings, where we don't apply this.
Yeah.
We don't apply that. For example, we are applying this with Toronto Community Housing. And I can understand the reason why.
Mr. Chair, I'm not...
But if we are serious about implementing
Yeah.
what you are preaching to all the tenants out there, this is the right
Mr.
way to do it.
Chair, in no way am I actually, please hear where this is coming from. I'm not actually challenging the content of what you've written or your intent or motivation at all. The motion itself, though, please read it, is giving direction on specific enforcement activities, which is outside of our purview as a committee, and therefore would be ruled out of order, and I should be ruled out of order. And I just ask you, if you could just ask either legal or the clerk to just speak to it for a moment, just to inform us. It would be helpful to inform committee. And that's really that's my only challenge with the motion.
Councilor, you can vote is against if you don't want it. That's your prerogative. I have put a lot of thought into it, and believe me, I have a great understanding in terms of.
But Mr. Chair, would you?
Well, it's and I think that with regards to information letters, you can ask.
Listen, you're hearing from different councillors here for clarification from the clerk. Would you please allow the clerk to just tell us if it's in order?
Yes, if you wish to vote against, please, by all means.
So if you're not going to rule on it, then I'm going to challenge you with respect, because this factually is not in order, as you may or may not know, and I'd like to, I'd just like a ruling first of all, or listen to the clerk.
You haven't made a...
This is not a challenge to your intent or motivation. It's just I don't believe this is in order.
I have given a lot of thought to it, and it is in order. You can vote against.
Then I respectfully challenge the chair because
you don't have that privilege at this point.
Why not?
Yes, and I will ask the clerk to please to clarify that.
The chair just ruled his motion in order, therefore it is now subject to challenge.
Yeah, that's right. So I can challenge the chair, and what I'm saying to my colleagues is that this is factually not in order.
Challenge to the chair, there's no discussion to it.
That's true.
So let's just hurry up. We just spent $125 million for the next 25 years. Hurry up and vote.
Okay, there we go. Is,
Depends on this motion or your motion.
Shall the ruling of the chair be upheld?
okay, the chair has been challenged. All those in favor to uphold the decision of the chair.
He's wrong.
Thank you.
May I have an opportunity to vote the opposite way?
It's now we are going to go. Now we are going to vote on the motions that are before us.
And those opposed to upholding the chair, if I may?
That Councilor Marlo.
Thank you for allowing me the vote.
Well, you're all on the same side and you're still arguing.
Okay, here we have the motions now, please.
Order, defer item consideration.
Okay. The first item that we have a number of motions, and the first one is the item to be deferred indefinitely. That's from Councilor Mamolidi. That's the first one. All those in favor of that of this motion, record the vote. Record the vote. All those in favor of
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
yes.
Sorry, I don't understand what's going on. I distinctly remember Councillor Mamolidi making his speech and then kind of suggesting that he'd like to move this motion. Excuse me. And then that was it. And under our procedural bylaws, a member should move a motion before they make their speech. So I don't understand what's going on.
Councilor Marlo, he did move that. We had this motion, yes. I would suggest that you pay a little bit of closer attention to what's happening here.
There's some weird things going on
we
today.
have this. We
can't
have this motion before us. The first one is from Councilor Mamolidi, that consideration of the item be deferred indefinitely. All those in favor? Recorded vote. Councilor Mamolidi. All those against? Councilor Di Giorgio, Di Vermeer, Marlo, Palacio. The motion loses. The next one. And
I'd like a recorded vote on each of the motions, please. No, just each motion. Not broken.
okay, so this is Councilor Marlo. This is the motion that you move on behalf of Councilor Davis, correct? Okay. Yeah. All those in favor, and just give me 1 second, please. Yeah. All those in favor? Against?
Sorry, I've asked for a
Recorded vote.
recorded vote on
Councilor
each
Mamolidis
motion.
against, and the other ones in favor. That's exactly what I said. Councilor Mamolidi against, in favor, Councilor Di Giorgio, Di Vermeer, Marlo, and Palacio. Yeah. And it carries.
For parts 1 and 2?
For all of Councillor Davis'
Yeah.
motion.
Yeah, that's 1 and 2. The next motion, please.
Councillor Matlow?
On this one, I would like to record the vote on 1 and, yeah, I would like to vote on these ones, on 1 separately, and the other ones we can vote together.
Okay, I'd still like a recorded vote on the
Yeah,
other
that's
items.
fine. Is on recommendation number 1, all those in favor, Councilor Di Vermeer, Marlo, against, Di Giorgio, Mamolidi, and Palacio. That recommendations within the report already is coming. Is number 2. Shall we take the rest as a package? Yeah. The rest of the recommendations. All those in favor? Councilor Di Giorgio and Di Vermeer, Marlo, Palacio. Against, Councilor Mamolidi. The next motion. No, that's it. No, this is the poison pill. Okay, on this one, I want to record, I would like to have recorded vote. All those in favor? Councilor Di Veramaker and Malo. Against? Di Giorgio, Palacio, and Mamoliti. That loses. Then I move recommendation 2D from city staff. I did that. And that's one from the report. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we have the staff's recommendation number 1. All those in favor?
1, 2, 3.
Against? It carries. Thank you. Would you like every one recorded? Yes. Okay, so let's vote again. All those in favor? Councilor Di Giorgio, Di Veramaker, Malo, Palacio, and against Councilor Mamoliti. Thank you, it carries. We have, I believe, 2 more motions there.
It's coming.
Yeah, that's coming. The next one is to the
An option 2D. This is your,
so this is the
an option 2D.
yeah, this with regards to the information layers. All those in favor? Against? Is it loses. Okay? You want to record a vote once again, Councilor Di Giorgio, Di Veramaker, Malo, and Councilor Mamoliti, and in favor, Councilor Palacio,
Okay.
and it loses.
Option 2D.
And option 2D, and as recommended by city staff that I moved, recorded vote once again. Well,
The staff recommendation was A, B, C, or D.
yeah, I moved to 2D, and I would like to have the recorded vote on that one.
I moved the version of 2D.
And it fails, so it's, we have 2D. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor of 2D, as recommended by city staff, Councilor Di Giorgio, Di Veramaker, Malo, Palacio, and against Councilor Mamoliti. So it carries. Are we done? As amended, I guess.
Yeah, item as
Yeah,
amended.
and the item as amended, all those in favor, Councilor Di Giorgio, Di Veramaker, Malo, Palacio, against Councilor Mamoliti. Thank you, everyone. On last item, that's LS 15.5, stairwell railing and guardrails. We have one deputant, that's Daryl Chang. I have a recommendation. On that one.
Yes, I did give it to you, yeah.
I thought you guys said you were going to defer this?
Thank you, Mr. Chan. Thank you for waiting.
No, it's
And,
okay. This matter's not being deferred? It's going to be dealt with today, right? Okay, so,
I have to leave. Yeah, just let's get on with it.
do you want me
Please.
to start? Yeah, I'll be very quick. The report's very clear. It's only 3 pages long.
Excuse me, can I have your attention, please? Councilor Malo, please take the conversation outside. And we need quorum as well.
All right, thank you. I know that you've been busy. It's been a long day. So the report's very clear. It's very short. It says that the closing sentence on the page 2, first paragraph, it just says the province of Ontario has deemed that the nature of the new standards is not significant enough to require that all buildings be retrofitted. Basically, it says when the building codes were established, the buildings were in conformation with the building codes. The province changed the building codes, but it didn't deem the rails and guardrails being discussed in this report to be of urgent nature, so they didn't say you must comply by. They just said they're fine the way they are, and we agree with that. So we worked with staff for a long time on this at the behest of Toronto Community Housing. About 3 years ago, Toronto Community Housing had a stakeholder meeting, called in the general manager, chief general manager, Tracy Cook, and we went through this, and at that point, they were still investigating it. Since then, Mr. Schrag, who has extensive building code experience, has come on board, and he's agreed that the letters are sufficient. So we ask that you just continue with the letters as staff are recommending. And that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chong. Any questions? If not, great. No, I have a recommendation to move. Any speakers on this item? Questions to staff to begin with? If not, questions to staff?
Helen Chillis. She's not left, Helen Chillis.
Yeah, no, we don't have the other deputant that Helen Chill is not here. Yeah, any speakers on the item? Speakers on the item? Okay, I think that I'm just going to take, I have a motion here. If we can, that City Council direct the Executive Director of Municipal Licensing Standards to include the number of notice of violations and notice of compliance issued for non-compliant stairwell handrails and the annual report of the Municipal Residential Apartment Building Audit and Enforcement Program. So that's for this to be part of the NRAP report. And this is a recommendation actually that came from the Tenants Committee, chaired by Councillor Malo, and that's a recommendation that came from that report. So I'm just putting it to bring it forward to City Council because I think that's a good recommendation. So having said that, is all those in favor of the motion and the report? Oppose? It carries. As amended, the item as amended, also in favor? Thank you. And I think we're done, right? Can I have a motion just to adjourn? Councillor George Olds in favor, against? Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Oh, I mean, that's for nothing. Huh? What happened with the insurance?